And welcome back again. Joining us today is Dr. Issam Altawari, a respected economic analyst and financial expert, known for his insightful perspectives on regional and global markets, with years of experience in analyzing economic trends and providing commentary on key financial developments. Mr. Altawari offers a deep understanding of how local economies interact with global shifts. Today we are delighted to have him with us to discuss the latest economic challenges and opportunities and to share his outlook for years ahead. Mr. Altawari, welcome to the program.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. Let's talk about if you can describe the current economic landscape here in Kuwait and the Gulf region.
Well, we've been fortunate in 2025 basically to see an economic recovery overall in the region. This is aided by the fact that there's been an easing of the cutbacks in oil production. Basically, then the GCC countries started to produce more and basically be able to generate more revenues to their budget. And that easing of oil production has helped also to reduce the deficit gap in the budgets, basically.
Yes.
That being said, also, there's been some cutback on the expenses, basically all the waste in the budget expenses, and which helped to reallocate those budget allocation into more reforms into infrastructure and basically helping to boost the local economy.
Yes.
When we talk about the key indicators, we've been seeing that last year there's been sort of a retraction in the economy. This year we're seeing around 2.5% growth in the economy, which is also projected to go over 3% in 2026. Yes. Which basically gives more optimism about the outlook in the future.
All of that because of the oil production to make it easier for the economy to enhance?
Well, basically, our revenue is 90% dependent on oil production.
Is that a good thing?
And therefore, the shifts in oil prices really impact us pretty much. 10% is non-oil. Yes. And non-oil is basically part of the plan is to diversify the economy away from hydrocarbon production, and basically, and that you can see that and basically yes. And renewable energy, infrastructure, construction, and we're seeing a lot of construction taking place in Kuwait.
Yes, of course, and 10% is very low. We need to make it more, inshallah, in the future. I'm not trying to challenge you, but let's talk about the challenges that we faced during this year, 2025, and the Gulf region in terms of economy. What are the challenges?
Well, the challenges that we have is basically, one is how can we implement reforms without impacting the social fabric. We're talking about how to consolidate some of the subsidies that are taking place for that are unnecessary. For example, what would be the impact of cutting back on the or increasing the energy prices? What would be the impact on basically cutting back on the subsidies for food and beverage? Yes. And allocating it to those segments that really need those subsidies. So rationalizing subsidies and cutting back the waste in government spending. Yes. And basically focusing on sustainable economy and moving gradually towards a greener economy. Those are the challenges that are facing not only Kuwait but the whole region. And some countries in the region have basically have made progress in that respect. Yes. And others are following suit.
Yes, I think this is a very important subject for us as a country to develop. And we will talk about the inflation trends globally, how they can affect Kuwait, especially Kuwait market.
Well, in Kuwait, basically most of the inflation that we feel is imported imported inflation, simply because of high prices and inflation globally, and because we import most of our goods and services. Hence, basically, the consumer basically bears the burden of the inflation. That being said, the inflation rate has dropped from 3% last year to about 2.6% this year, and basically, which is good news. But the aspect that people still feel is about the inflation and the inflation index on the food, which is around 5.6. So that's why people, when they go shopping for groceries, they still feel that, you know, prices are high. However,
yes,
overall, inflation in Kuwait is under control.
Under control, and this is good news to know that it's under control, but we want anything to affect us as citizens to be less. Now let's talk about how resilient is Kuwait economy in terms of the fluctuations that's happening globally.
Okay, I mean, Kuwait has two sources of wealth. Basically, the wealth underground and wealth that's basically represented by our foreign investments. Our foreign investments, which estimated to reach about $1 trillion, is basically helps to basically maintain our creditworthiness, and it acts as a cushion towards any volatility in the market, and of course it generates income to our economy. And therefore we are reliant more on the income that's generated from our oil revenues. In the short term, now with the oil prices sort of stabilizing, our budget is estimated at around $70 to the barrel. So some revisions took it back to 65. Last year's deficit was around 1 billion KD, which is way down from the estimated 5.6 billion KD. This year, I think we're going to be around the 1 billion mark deficit, which is still manageable.
Yes.
Kuwait has just done its Eurobond debut in the market. We raised $11.25 billion, which basically helps the liquidity position of the country. So liquidity-wise, the economy is very much comfortable.
Yes.
And our banking sector is one of the strongest in the region, and that's because we have the central bank sort of supervision of strong supervision of our banking sector, which gives us sort of great comfort and trust for in the market.
So I'm glad that you mentioned the banking sector, which is under the private sector, and now we'll talk about the private sector because this will enhance our economy as a country. And if you can tell us about the private sector and their part.
Well, private sector is a growing sector in Kuwait because the public sector is the dominant sector in Kuwait. The economy relies heavily on major projects that will be basically awarded for infrastructure, construction, and renewable energy. Yes. And the private sector's role is to basically be the instrument implementing those projects.
Is that good for the private sector? Or?
That's great for the private sector because it creates jobs it creates basically opportunities for the private sector, and creates jobs for Kuwaitis as well.
Yes.
And therefore the private sector is very important, and we hope that the private sector's contribution to the economy basically increases to around 30–40% from its marginal 15% right now.
Yes. So Dr. Issam, I'm sure that you know about that Kuwait has a plan, a national plan for making Kuwait a financial hub, especially for the region. And this is something for Kuwait to attract investors from outside. In your opinion, what are the sectors that in Kuwait that are very attractive for investors, especially foreign investors?
Well, to attract investors to Kuwait, you need to basically have the right investment environment, and that means you need to reform your legislative framework and basically make Kuwait as sort of an easy hub for people to communicate and to transport from and outside of Kuwait.
Which is already happening in Kuwait.
Well, it's happening, but we need to improve as well, because we look at our competition in the region, and that's how we compare ourselves. So we need to see that improving in order to attract foreign direct investments. Our foreign direct investments estimated around 600 million as compared to around 2.5 billion in Bahrain and 5 billion in Oman.
Yes.
So Kuwait is probably 3 times bigger economy than Oman, for example.
Yes.
However, that just shows you the potential for that growth to take place.
Yes, and as you know, the rise of digital economy and the artificial intelligence, especially for finance and economy, this is something that all countries, they are joining. Now let's talk about this. How is that important for Kuwait, especially in terms of the digital economy?
Well, one of the objectives that are for New Kuwait, as they say, is to be a logistical hub, a tech hub, and basically embraces artificial intelligence to basically spur the growth in this economy. This can work for us here in Kuwait simply because our population, our local population is around 1.5 million. As
Kuwaitis.
Opposed to Kuwaitis,
yes.
Against versus 3.5 million non-Kuwaitis residents. Yes. And therefore, artificial intelligence helps you to basically reduce dependence on labor-intensive, repetitive jobs, and making it much more efficient, much more efficient and faster and cheaper. And therefore, that focus on AI over the next sort of period will help in basically having technical skills that are required in the country, and reducing the population that are lower skilled labor in the country, and which basically creates a better quality of life for both the citizens and the residents. Yes.
Now let's talk about the field of technology. I'm sure that your field is the economy. And now I want your honest opinion about the technology involving in the economy, because now it's easier to trade online. It's easier to trade anywhere around the world, not only in the Gulf region. Do you think this is good for Kuwait, as you know that we are trying to be ahead with our competition, as you mentioned earlier, that the competition is good, we can learn from other countries, especially our brothers in the GCC countries?
Well, basically, we can use the technology to attract investments into Kuwait, basically, for people to be able to trade into our stock exchange and basically invest in our economy. I mean, so it's not only people looking to trade outside of Kuwait, it's basically making Kuwait as attractive to bring money into Kuwait. And we've seen some of the reforms that are taking place in the Kuwait Stock Exchange, yes. and basically right now I think foreign investors form around 15% yes. of our investors trading in our stock exchange, yes. which is great. Kuwait is also listed on MSCI Emerging Market Index, which basically attracts funds into Kuwait. All of that are positive sort of steps yes. towards basically making Kuwait a valuable capital market in the region. Yes,
some say that this plan, the national plan of Kuwait, is very ambitious, but we did it before. We are the pioneers here in the GCC countries, and this is not very hard, especially when we are planning it. Dr. Issam, thank you so much for coming to Good Morning Kuwait.
Thank you very much for having me.
You are most welcome. That was Dr. Issam Altawari, financial consultant. And now we will move on with our show Good Morning Kuwait, but after this small break, stay with us.